Kyle here from All Media Reviews, and here to do the big 2023 Albums of the Year Roundtable, extravaganza that I've told too many people about and haven't even shown anything about. But we're here with a few special guests. One of them, you can just all announce yourself. So, we have Brennan from his own channel. He's got his own channel himself.
Hey, everyone.
From Death by Unicorn. And then we have a friend of mine named Alan.
Hi, Alan from Mexico, Monterrey, Mexico.
Yep. And Christian, also known as Frantic Dav. And
hello.
We're all prog fans, and we watch YouTube, we follow the social media, and we love our lists. And so we're gonna do the big list like a lot of people doing. So I don't know how you want to do this. You want to just randomly pick names? I think I should probably go last. So we could go maybe counterclockwise if it's coming out the way it is on the screen here. So Christian, if you want to go first, you want to just do your top 5 for the year, and then we can go over the rest of that afterwards. We're not going to beat around the bush as much as some channels.
All right, perfect.
One more note also. Sorry, one more note. We also have another friend that couldn't make it that I'm going to read off some of her picks later. So, by the way, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
don't worry.
Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers, guys.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. Year. Yes. Final thoughts. I definitely have a lot of final thoughts, but so.
All right, perfect. So here we are, 2023, doing the big recap of every single album that we've listened throughout all these times. And well, I've gotten some really big participation moments from various new bands, that I haven't heard in most of the parts. I'm gonna highlight my number 5 pick, which is a British band called I Am the Manic Whale. I Am the Manic Whale is a really great band from, I'm trying to remember exactly the city that he's from. It's from a bassist called Michael Whiteman, who makes really great retro prog, like kind of a Spock's Beard kind of vibe, but at the same time he adds his own flair, his own histories to it. And their latest record, which is also accompanied by a book, is named Bumper Book of Mystery Stories. So it's basically not really like a concept album, but like really short stories, like trying to describe vividly various images of various parts, like kind of like short story wise. So it's like really interesting perspective on how he does most of his compositions. And if you're a big fan of, let's say, very classical prog vibes, like really into the area like Spock's Beard, or maybe other bands like Southern Empire or Unitopia, it would be a great pick.
Yeah, I know that's been a release a lot of people have been into this year, and I did check it out recently, so I can understand why it's getting a lot of the praise, and the theatrical element or the literary element to it. And so yeah, good pick.
Sold.
Yeah, I love it. I listened to it as well. I listened to a lot of music this year, so I'm hoping one of you will have something on your list that I haven't heard of, but I love this one too. Love the single Erno's Magic Cube about the Rubik's Cube. Love the music video.
That was the song that caught my ear the most, actually. Yep. Yep. So
never heard of them, but I'm definitely got hooked by your reviews, so I'm definitely picking it up and checking it out. Thanks.
All right, keep going, Christian. So number 4 for you.
All right. This one's a completely new artist that from what I've read, they've been doing their album since 2017, which is a group called Enoch Root, and their album is named Delusion. It's honestly, if you're more into the vibes of the Deer Hunter, very singer-songwriter vibe, but with an additional like heavy kind of riffs, it actually really surprised me, and it gets even better on repeated listens, on when you're trying to decipher the whole story, the whole I don't want to say if it's a concept album. I don't see it as a concept album, but I see it more as a more like a happenstance on how a person's tried to grow up and throughout his life, about how the fate was decided upon him and he's trying to change stuff. But it's a really amazing kind of album for, well, basically if you're more in the mood of I would say it's not very like heavy oriented like Haken or that sorts of prog metal oriented bands, but it's more like a very chill vibe, a very relaxed vibe, but at the same time very energetic. If you need to check out, for example, a track, I think Delusion is one of my favorite from them. Repose is also another great song from them. And well, that would be pretty much my number 4 pick.
Yeah, I know. Like they were like super big, the Deer Hunter fans. I know. I saw some people review it. I was a little gun shy just because there's been a lot of bands that have been like sort of, similar to the Deer Hunter. It's kind of a happy balance. But I know people that got into it, got really into it. So obviously, if it's your number 4, you were.
Mm-hmm.
So if
Yeah,
you
you
guys,
have to check it out, Kyle. I think
yeah,
you like the
Brennan,
Deer
you probably
Hunter.
yes.
I
If you
like
like the Deer, we all like the Deer Hunter here. I know. So
yeah.
definitely.
I also love this one from Enoch Root. I think it's one of the best debut albums of the year. It's in my top 40, but not in my top 5. I listened to like 423 albums, I think. So, so being in
one
my
of your
top 40
updates-
is still really good.
I remember one of your updates. I think you talked about it. Because like you talked about it, Rhyme Signatures had talked about it, and there's like 1 or 2 other channels that talked about it. So, and I saw it on one of the Deer Hunter Facebook groups.
It's a lot like the Deer Hunter, but actually, like some of the guitar soloing on it is almost like closer to Haken. Like there's some intense shredding from time to time, but it's still kind of that singer-songwriter prog for the most part.
Cool. All right. So number 4. What's up number 3 then?
All right. In number 3, it may be a band that many of you know. It's more, I could say it's more oriented for more Haken kind of fans, kind of Nospūn fans, but also they try to variate a bit. Like they don't go like hard in a heavy direction, but they go on a more like ethereal kind of a vibe. The band's name is OK Goodnight, and the name of the album is The Fox and the Bird. I actually was astonished at the first time. I think it was recommended to me by a fellow Kairos fan that she told me, "Oh, you like Haken a lot. Check out this band." I was like, on the first listen, I was surprised. I didn't know. Apparently, these guys are from Boston. I think maybe on the Berkeley area or that of a sort. But you can tell that most of their composition, most of their the way they kind of play around with the dynamics throughout the whole album is really fantastic. And that's pretty much my number 3 pick.
Yeah,
it would have won even higher, but it was basically a new discovery for me because I haven't checked out. At the point of listening, I didn't check out their previous albums, but right now I'm like really excited to even delve more.
Do they have more than one? I don't even remember. I just remember seeing their name this year.
I think this is their second. This is their second album.
Okay.
Yeah, I also love this one. I think we have similar tastes here, Christian. This one's in my top. It's in my top 20.
Well,
so
we're gonna have some crossover. I mean, yes, a couple of these
100.
records were on my list lower, but yes.
Also love that this one has like the female vocals on it. So it's like Haken with female vocals, but there's also a lot of like soft, folky passages as well.
How long of an album? Because there was one of those albums I checked out early in the year that was pretty long, but I don't remember if it was this one or one of the other ones I checked out.
I don't remember how long it is either.
But
it flies by.
But one thing is that they don't shy away from, like, for example, using harsh vocals, because at points they go like really hard. I'm trying to remember the Nightmare, the Bird, those 2 tracks like really, really heavy into it.
So it's a mix of vocals, of female clean vocals and some growling, probably. Yeah, I did listen to it. I just I didn't get around to going back to it because I remember it was definitely a little more intense than I was up for at the time. But no, I know there's a few people that absolutely love that OK Goodnight album. So cool. All right. So what do you got left? Number 2.
Number 2. All right. Usually this spot would be reserved in my case for albums that have been expected for a really long time to come out. For example, one that comes to mind is not my number 2 pick, but it's near my top 15. For example, the latest Peter Gabriel album, which is like 20 years in the making. But for this space, it would be Himlabacken Part 2 from Moon Safari.
Okay.
It's been 11 years, I think, even more, waiting for that album. Himlabacken one was one of my top picks in 2011. The way they use the vocal melodies, the way they combine it into like a really kind of a soothing, like not ethereal, but like laid back, kind of a, I want to say Beach Boys kind of a vibe, but it's not exactly
ways.
that kind of that kind of like beachy vibe, but it's more like more like a really a really hard a really good crossover between their vocal melodies and how they combine the whole thing and how they orchestrate the whole of the music. And it blew me away, and it was a really late arrival to this year. It basically got released earlier this month and has been playing nonstop.
People
Especially
got advance copies, I remember. And then yeah, but then I think it officially got released. Was it on the 8th or was it the 1st? I think it was the 8th of December. So yeah, no, I mean, that's been sort of the buzzed album the last 3 weeks, especially among anyone into progressive rock on YouTube and on social media. Moon Safari,
they're
this
really
was right.
hyping this album a
I
lot.
do like the song. No irony of the song Blood Moon. That was, you know, that was pretty catchy, pretty memorable. I'm not as into the album as a lot of people, and I'm not as big of a fan. I don't know about you guys, Brennan and Alan, if you listen to much Moon Safari or this particular record.
I haven't, but I've heard of. I mean, it had been hyped quite highly on the prog threads and prog forums. So
remember back in the day, Moon Safari was like the sort of the heir apparent to Transatlantic. And my friend who doesn't like a lot of modern prog, but he liked the Flower Kings, totally praised Moon Safari is like the best band from Sweden. They're the band that's channeling Yes the most. And I know like a lot of the YouTubers just absolutely just worship Moon Safari, and this is why it was such a big deal, because it was 11 years or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I think it's great.
I hear a lot of
to it.
I hear like a lot of 80s Yes on it, actually. It's
that
yeah.
Especially
for sure.
production wise, and the way they kind of orchestrated the whole album, because Himlabacken Volume 1, the one they had 11 years ago, is more oriented until childhood and nostalgia vibes, and this one's more like teenager and adulthood and trying to like to get a reality check throughout the whole world, throughout their whole lives. Let's see, highlight tracks. Between the Devil and Me, definitely the single. Emma Come On is like really, if you want a really short preview of the song. And obviously Teen Angel Meets the Apocalypse, which is the long 20-minute epic.
Yeah, that's my favorite one on the album too, the epic. I think the vocal harmonies on here are just amazing. This one's also in my top 40 of the year. But I've got to, my top 5 is all prog metal. I'm a prog metal guy, so I'll just spoil that right off the bat.
All right.
You're going to be surprised with the last pick. With my number 1.
Go ahead.
All right, go ahead. What's number 1?
All right. The number 1 pick. It's so good. I definitely got it immediately after release. Here it is.
Why am I not recognizing that? What is that? Voyager. Okay.
Yeah.
This album. What do I have to say? The thing with Voyager is I've known them from years behind. I think I started with their album V, and I kind of get the gist that what they were trying to do, like very accessible tracks, really heavy tracks, but at the same time, it lacked something, and that's something they really started to hone it in right in like 2020 with their release. I think it was called Ghost something. They try to make it even more poppy, even more accessible, and they had that like this challenge that we want to get into
Eurovision. Yep. Remember we talked about that, Brennan.
More and more their songwriting.
Yeah.
Like I kind of think of it like a person sharpening their blade, like constantly, like trying to get the hook, trying to get everything perfect. And with this album, especially, obviously with the single Promise that obviously made it into the top 10 of Eurovision, but every single track in here has the exact focus and trying to get as catchy as possible, but at the same time as melodic and even proggy at bits. For example, obviously Promise, but Dreamer is another song that is really a highlight into this album. Submarine, Listen, it does something that every single album that I've listened to, it has this kind of like you want to come back to it. You want to discover even more what's behind it, what makes it work, what makes it tick. And obviously, like, for example, it's more like, I want to say like, yes, it's 9125, but at the same time, they're trying to do more of a Vola sort of ish vibes, but at the same time, like, keep it really pop accessible. And and to me, it is the album of the year, not only for that reason, but also to congratulate them because they're getting into a top 10 into
Even though
something
they're from Australia,
that
of course.
many people say like,
Yes.
oh, it's Eurovision, it's kind of shit, but there was really great songs.
Well, Pain
were
of Salvation
in
was in it,
Eurovision.
whatever it was, about 10, 15 years ago.
True that.
Oh yeah,
There's,
it's a
you remember
completely
that?
different thing.
Yeah.
But a prog metal band, well, with prog metal origins, appearing on that big stage, not only was it a surprise, but that it get really up high, basically with
It
other
deserves some
competitions with-
recognition, right?
exactly.
They I knew their name because I remember there's a prog rock podcast years ago that talked them and Subsignal, who also released an album this year.
Mhm.
The guy was like champion both those bands. I never heard of them. They reminded me of the kind of 90s or 80s neo prog AOR stuff. So, but I've always known their name, and I know at least a few different lists, like Glenn from Prog Power USA, I think had them on his list that really praised that record. I haven't heard it. I've not spent much time listening to them, but I
really-
probably should. You know,
you really should. It's an album that grabs you like for surprise. I obviously the single was the one that caught my attention, but when I started to delve into this album, it was nonstop. It literally didn't leave my turntable or my CD player like for basically a month.
more pop than you'd expect from prog metal. It's like poppy prog metal, which
Poppy prog metal, but
yeah.
it has that special something. Again, from previous albums, they were like honing it in, and when this one, they got it. They got that exact thing that they were trying to look for.
Right. Cool. All right. Well, that's my homework among a lot of other homeworks. So, Alan, do you want to go next?
Sure. Okay, I'll start off by saying that my list will be more obvious choices, more popular choices. There's so many music that, I mean, all the guys you listed, probably I know 10% or 15%. So my list might change by the end or by next week. So I'll have to digest. So I like that because that's the reason of this podcast and video. So I'll start off by going with number. I mean, I don't have them sorted from 1 to 10 or 1 to 5. I'm just gonna list them.
Sure.
The first one will be Steven Wilson's The Harmony Codex. It was highly expected. I read his last book. It's not actually an autobiographical book, but
I have the book, but yep, here we go.
There you go.
Yeah.
So it has all sorts of chapters. One, his top 10 movies. The last chapter of the book is a fiction story, which was the first stepping stone to this album. So this album is very, I would say, diverse because it changes. One song you have like a trip hop rhythm. The other one, it's very proggy, like I forgot the name. Impossible Tightrope.
Yeah, probably.
I believe that's how it's called. There's Ballad with Ninette, who has been with him for years. So I really like this album. And listening to that album in Dolby Atmos or spatial audio, it's mind blowing. It is mind blowing. As Steven Wilson says that this album, he tried or he pushed himself to have a cinematic 4D ears experience. It actually is when you listen in that kind of environment. So that will be my first pick. Okay, second pick, you hindsight. I mean, you Chris mentioning just about highly expected albums. Now I'll have to go with Peter Gabriel's I.O. 21 years in the making. This album blew my mind. I didn't listen to any of the singles. I waited until this month to listen to the whole thing, the whole enchilada.
That's patience.
It is.
I know
mean,
you.
I
That's
read
your
it one day.
process. How long ago did you start that? It was a few years ago, right? Where you never would listen to advanced singles. You used to, and it's like I don't want to hear the advanced. Just give me the whole album. You started that a
Yeah,
few years ago, right?
it started January this year.
Was it
It
just
act-
this year? I thought it was a few years ago. Okay.
no, it was January this year, and it was actually
full moon.
every full moon. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I say I've
No-
waited 20 years. So
No, I mean
what?
your process about like when you wouldn't listen to advanced singles.
Right.
Because
Yeah,
I
I
told
don't
you,
listen.
yeah, there's a new, Porcupine Tree album. I don't want to hear it. I just want to hear the whole album. I don't want to listen to the single. You started that a few years ago and you never
Yeah.
stopped. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't done that all my lifetime, but I started, like
Okay.
you said, just a couple of years back. So yeah, I love this album. The musician chemistry is still there with Tony Levin, with Manu Katché,
The drummer.
David Rhodes. He recorded this album in his own studio in Real World Studios in the UK. And what can I say about a Peter Gabriel album? I mean, this sounds to me, this is a blend between Nos and Up. It's kind of,
Yep.
Mhm.
and the lyrics, they go from he always likes to cover social topics, but as well as personal emotional feelings, and as well as the future, in this case technological and IA and whatnot. So really love this album. Also an album that came out in spatial audio. Highly
Mhm.
recommend. If you guys haven't upgrade to spatial, do it.
Someday. Yep.
I was gonna ask, but besides obviously the Inside mix, but in my case, the Dark Side mix is one of my favorites. The Bright Side mix, I mean, it has obviously a more brighter kind of sound, but I think it highlights like way too many of the brass sections, or more of a bit. The Dark mix has a bit of more
Yeah.
brooding kind of a thing, especially on the Brian Eno involved tracks.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. And you that's a good call. I started with the dark side, then I went to the bright side, and then the inside, which is the spatial or the Dolby
Spatial.
Atmos.
Right.
Yeah, so
Probably the best version.
indeed it is.
I haven't
Okay.
heard the Atmos version, but I heard Bright Side and Dark Side mixes, and they're both pretty good. Love both your picks so far, Alan, Stephen Wilson,
you.
and Peter Gabriel. I can't go wrong.
No, both are
Thank you.
good. Both are in there,
Okay,
yeah.
so
So
my next pick, it was a discovery for me, a band that I've never heard of, and I believe this is their sophomore album. And to me it's funny when people, well, it's kind of ironic when a band comes out and they have an automatic or like an instant relation to another band, like a classic band. I'll just name it, like Greta Van Fleet to Led
Right.
Zeppelin. But I
right.
believe in this case it's somewhat different. I'm talking about Crown Lands.
Yes. All right.
The album is Fearless. I totally love it. And the comparison will be to Rush, obviously, maybe because the high-pitched voice or the drum parts. This is a duo. That's another thing that is very remarkable of this band. It's a duo. I believe they're Canadian as well. And
Yep.
they're Canadian, right?
Yep. And they worked with Terry Brown,
they
I
are.
believe, too. So there's
They
a lot of
worked with-
Rush connection.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I believe with Hugh Syme as well. I don't know, but
Yeah.
they were very related to the Rush entourage, if you will. So
Yep. No, I know.
so I love this. I remember listening to this album back in spring break when I was road tripping to Austin, and it was I mean that memory is it's already printed on me and it's related to this album.
They're the 120-minute epic on there, don't they? That was like the single they released initially.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the last song.
Yeah.
It's great. Or was it the first song? I think they might have even opened the album with the epic.
You're right.
Yeah,
You're
they
right.
did.
Starlifter, Fearless
Yeah.
Part 2.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
great. I
You're
love
right.
them. Great to have a Canadian band on your list. I'm from Canada as well, so always love the fellow Canadian bands. I've seen them live too, and they're great live.
Great.
Not only that, but for a friend of mine who lives in the Rochester area in New York, where they usually do their rounds in playing live. they're also Native American, most
Oh
of
yeah, I
them.
think I'm hearing about that. Yep.
Okay.
Well,
But
that
yeah,
makes
it's
sense. And Buffalo is really close to the border of Canada, so
Mhm.
go figure.
But
you
yeah,
know,
it's
but,
an amazing
yeah.
it's an amazing pick, like a 2112 for the 21st century.
Right.
Kind of is. Yep.
And it's
I'm
only two
curious.
people in the band too. That's also crazy.
I'm curious. Do they have higher guns or do they sample live?
The guy actually they play it all. So the drummer drums and sings
Things, right?
simultaneously, and then the guitar player uses like foot pedals
Pedals.
for
Okay.
bass.
Okay.
But I was like, I thought there must have been like a bass player like hiding behind the stage or something. Like I just assumed that. I actually had a YouTube comment chat with the guy who plays guitar in this band, being like, "You guys must have had like a person playing the bass back there." He's like, "No, I was doing that with my feet." I was like, "What?" I just couldn't believe it, but it's true apparently.
It's crazy, like those duos in history. There was a video years ago of a guy who was literally playing 4 different instruments with each one of his feet in his hands. It's like, it's crazy. It's crazy. Well, you got to see him live to witness it, I guess.
I
So,
gotta. Yeah. So I'll go with my left two, my last two. I mean, this band is a hit or miss. You either love it or hate it. I mean, both the band and the album. And I'm talking about Avenged Sevenfold. Life is but a dream. To me, I think I missed the last 2 or 3 Avenged Sevenfold albums, and I wasn't expecting. I just listened to it just for the sake of listening to it. I was like completely hooked right away. It's very ambitious, to say the least. It
Yeah.
goes from, I don't know, Frank Sinatra to classical music, Mozart to Daft Punk. It goes
yes,
all over
cosmic.
the place.
Yep.
It's cosmic
Yeah,
indeed.
that track.
And to me, what caught me the most was the drumming part. Brooks Wackerman,
Wackerman.
yeah, he does an amazing job on this album, probably his best within the band. So yeah, that's life is but a dream. Highly recommend. You might not like what's his name, the singer Zachary.
M Shadows.
M
yeah.
Shadows
Right.
voice. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but I
Yeah.
do like it. So
One of the
It's an
highlights to
acquired
me-
taste. He sounds a little strange on this album, but I love this album.
Mhm.
It's like their most eclectic and most adventurous that they've ever done. It's so great.
Yeah,
totally.
especially on Eclectic is the God suite that they do at the end is
You're right.
wild.
You wouldn't expect from Avenged.
The best moments I really liked. I remember kind of the second half of it. I was kind of getting, it was a little bit of a chore to get through, but I know it was really being hyped up for a while there. I hadn't checked it out, and then said this is their prog album and everything, and because I've enjoyed many of their records, but the last record, I think it was The Stage, I actually really liked, but it was one of those records I liked at the time and I didn't decide to go back to it. But I like Life is But a Dream, but I think it's more of like I'm cherry picking, like my whole Zappa thing right now is like I want to find the best songs off Life is But a Dream. I think I'll probably listen to for a long time. I don't know, the record itself may take some growing, but for me, but I can see why you'd like it, Alan.
Okay, and last choice. This is the third album of this band. It's a band that wears masks. No, I'm not talking about Slipknot. I'm talking about Sleep Token.
Oh, okay.
This is Take Me Back to Eden. This is a band that has. I'm surprised by how fast they have grown and how fast they have acquired a fan base. I love the fact that they remain anonymous. And this album is a perfect continuation to what they have done in the previous 2 albums. They incorporate sounds from djent to electronic to metal to pop. And my wife actually I was listening to the album, and my wife like, "What's this band's name?" And I'm like, "Oh, they're Sleep Token." I really like it. She liked the poppy parts, but still.
I know that happens.
And the rumors about them coming to Mexico next year. So hopefully they just revealed their new mask. So yeah, I really like this band. I like the consistency of them. So
So the criticism doesn't really bother you. Some people have said they're like, is that the band I think is that like Imagine Dragons doing prog or something like that? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's a
I
fair
think that's one of the
description.
jokes
Yeah.
that I've heard about it.
Because
Yeah.
they do
but-
like they have like auto tune and it sounds really poppy, but they also do like a lot of genre bending and like jumping from genre to genre within a song. So
I mean, I see where they're coming from, comparing the vocals to Imagine Dragons, but the drum parts are, me being a drummer,
Mm,
I
that's part of it.
I pay a huge part or attention to that or into that detail. And they just released a Drumeo video of
Number
it's,
two.
two,
It's called.
yeah, two. His playing is insane. Once you see him like playing, he's insane on the drum kit. So they know what they're doing. And I'll just go by just listing, not going into detail about the other things that I'll consider honorable mentions for this year. One being Swans, The Beggar, TesseracT, War of Being, Haken, Fauna, Riverside, ID
Fauna.
Entity, Depeche Mode, Memento Mori, The Church, The Hypnagogue, a pop singer, Joy Oladukon, I believe that's how it. The Flower Kings, Look at You Now, Einar Solberg, 16 from Lepros, Dave Matthews Band, Walk Around the Moon, Bruce Orr, Luminescence, and Lana Del Rey's last album.
Okay. Well, I'll try to like list these. So looks like we got 4.5 minutes left in this particular minute. You want to do is take a quick break here, and then we can myself and Brennan, not myself, can go on the second half, and then we can do the honorable mentions in 2024 and everything.
Yeah, that sounds good to
Sure.
me.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, we'll see you on the other side, but thank you for watching. Stay tuned, and we'll see you next time.
Time for a commercial break.
All right.
Time for commercials.
All right. We just combined that back. So, so Brennan, do you want to go next for your top 5 of the year?
Yeah, sounds great. My number 5. Well, I should just say before I jump in, this has been a great year. And I posted just before this, we did this call, I posted my top 25 over on my channel, Death by Unicorn. And I listened.
we can link that. Yeah, he's
link it.
Yeah, link his for his top 25. Check that out after you're done watching this video.
Yeah, and thanks for having me on your channel again,
no, it's been...
Kyle. So yeah, I listened to over 400 albums. These are the top 5. They're all prog metal. So first one is The World is Quiet Here, and their album Zon. This is it. I've got it on vinyl here. This is like progressive death metal, I would say. It's their second album. They're from the US, and I discovered this album thanks to the Rhyme Signatures YouTube channel. I had
That's
not
where
heard.
I knew it from. Okay.
Yeah, I hadn't heard their first album at the time, but I've since gone back and listened to it. It's also a great album. If you're a fan of Between the Buried and Me and Others by No One, I think those are similar bands to this. And it actually features some guest appearances. So Max Mowbray from Others by No One is on it. And then Ki Po Hawk, who was a touring guitarist with Native Construct, is on it and plays a guest guitar solo. That's amazing. I also have him on playing a guest guitar solo on one of my original songs that I have on my YouTube channel as well. And he's just like an amazing
He is. That record was great.
So
cool. No,
yeah, just a really, really crazy album. Like vocals are wild. I love how his clean vocals are in a low register. And the harsh vocals, he goes all over the map.
The World is Quiet. Yeah. All right. There's someone on Twitter that bugged me totally about that album from Others by No One. And I think there's another one maybe in the works, but it's crazy. It's crazy technical stuff, you know.
Oh yeah.
But
have you heard The World is Quiet Here?
Have you guys, either you guys? No, I haven't.
Oh, yeah.
In my case, I have. It's not usually my kind of taste. I'm usually more into the tech death kind of a part. But for example, in one of the Discord servers that I go to, Images and Words, they are raving on that Zon album. People love it.
Popular there.
Yes, it's great.
No, I know. So
But just a short thing. Speaking about Others by No One, Max just reunited the band.
Oh yeah, I
right, that's
saw
what I
that on
read about. That
Facebook.
there's like stuff about another record from them. So
Oh, I'd love to hear that.
It's basically I'm trying to think. Flummox is basically the backing band is her band Flummox with Alyssa with it, but they're remaking the whole thing and very excited. That's like one of my top things. I hope they do release something in 2024 or do a live gig or something.
That would be amazing. And Flummox is also a great band. I love them
Mhm.
too. Yeah. All right, jump into my number 4, which is TesseracT, War of Being. I know, Alan, you mentioned it as an honorable mention. I'm a TesseracT fanboy, so I love everything by TesseracT. This is their 5th album. They're from the UK. Of course, they popularized Gent along with Periphery, Animals as Leaders after Meshuggah and Six started that style. And I like all their albums. They delivered another banger here.
Hmm.
are they
But
still based in the UK though? I thought I read that they came over here. Like they one
oh,
like
maybe.
I don't know.
I'm
Not here,
actually
but
not
like,
sure.
They are still
like the
based
west,
in
like
the
the
UK.
West Coast or something, or maybe I don't know. I remember hearing something, but I was surprised by that. But
I have no idea. I know they're from the UK. I'm not sure where they live
maybe they
now.
tour. Maybe they toured the states. Maybe that's what it
Mhm.
was.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I watched the documentary that comes with the Blu-ray, and I mean, at least the whole album was recorded in the UK. So who
Okay.
knows?
I really love their first 2 albums though. Those are still my favorites, One and
Mhm.
Altered State. And so everything I kind of compare to those, and
Yep.
those
Especially
hold
Altered
us.
State.
They hold us. Yeah, I love Altered State. It's the one that doesn't have Daniel Tompkins on vocals. I love Ash O'Hara's vocals on there. He fits the band perfectly. But Daniel Tompkins' vocals on this are amazing. Like his melodic singing is just like he's reached new heights. His harsh vocals are also great. I think my favorite track would be War of Being on here.
Cool. He was on something else too. I can't remember what I heard about, but he was a guest on someone else's album. I'm forgetting who.
Oh yeah, Earthside. He was.
That's
Oh
right.
yeah,
Yes,
Earthside's
yes.
one of my
Another
in
amazing
one of
album.
my I think it was a really great follow-up in my
With
great
Bruce
follow-up
Sword,
list.
right?
Bruce
Oh,
Sword.
I don't
I
know if he's
believe
on that
right.
one, is he?
He might have been on that too, because they're both on the
Maybe.
K-Scope label. Because the Pineapple Thief and Bruce Sword were on
Yeah.
K-Scope and
Maybe on
Tesseract as
mixing
well.
because Bruce
So-
Sword is making a lot of mixing mastering work.
Yep.
Yeah, I could
He
believe
did.
that.
He did Polaris surround mix on Tesseract. So
Mhm.
yeah, I agreed. I believe to me this is the vocal performance of the year.
Hmm.
Daniel is
Yeah,
amazing.
it's up there. It's so good.
Hmm.
And then I guess I'll jump into my number 3. For that, I've got another band I'm a fanboy of, Haken,
Haken.
with
Okay.
Fauna, which I have on CD there. And I saw them live this year. It was great to see them live on the Haken
Dito.
on the Fauna tour. I also saw them live in 2022 when they toured with Symphony X. So they're just like an amazing band to see live, and every album they put out's great. This is their 7th. They're also from the UK. This was the one I was most looking forward to the whole year. It was my most anticipated. Yeah, I don't know. It's not my favorite by them, but I just think everything they do is so good. Like
Mhm. They're very
they're like at
consistent.
an untouchable level of quality. They haven't taken a misstep yet, in my opinion.
Mhm.
The artwork really stands out on that record.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the artwork's great. Yeah.
It reminds
I
me
love
of
the
when
monkey.
Fear of Blank Planet came out. It's like you couldn't avoid that cover. It's like the Fauna cover was everywhere for about 3 months this year.
Yeah, Dan
Yeah.
Goldsmith's the artist.
Yeah.
Really, really great album covers.
I
Yeah,
agree.
I think it just won on the Prog Report YouTube channel. They had like
Oh, did it?
Oh yeah.
album cover of the
I know
year,
they
and
did their
it won
awards,
that.
and yeah, I haven't watched the results yet, but
Yeah, I just saw
Yeah,
the results came
Haken
out.
won basically all of them.
okay.
Haken won 4 of the categories, I think. or something.
Between them and Riverside, right?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. So that's awesome.
This album, just a quick note, they're also mixed by Bruce Sword in Spatial Audio.
Oh yeah.
And they just announced a US tour, North America tour,
Or an
an
evening
evening with, right?
Oh
Yep.
yeah. Yeah, I heard they're doing a
Yeah.
3-hour set, or they're doing like 2 sets. One's going to be Fauna
The
in
whole-
full, and then the other is going to be just like a collection of favorites.
Right.
Their other stuff.
Yeah.
their best ofs.
That'd be awesome to see. I'm not sure if I'll actually see that tour.
I don't
but-
think it's coming to my town, but I mean, I've said my piece about I've never been able to get into them, but I know people
Oh,
that
no?
are one of my good friends that lives here is obsessed with them. So if
Keep
they were coming
trying.
here, yeah,
You have
yeah.
to. If you like Dream Theater, right? Like I'm surprised you
I
don't.
do. I mean, especially the stuff with Portnoy and the earlier stuff, but
Mm.
I mean, there's some bands and Symphony X is the same way. I never got into them either, even though I saw them live.
Yeah, I could see that
CDs.
if you don't like
But-
the more like Symphony X has that more like power metal
Mhm.
style vocals, and if you're not into that kind of like over the mountains and over the valleys and swords and dragons kind of vocal style.
It depends.
Yeah.
I like some power metal, but
Yeah.
yeah, their Symphony X came across a little too cheesy for me, unfortunately. Even
Yeah.
though, I do have the V album, and I like the one song that sounds like Kansas is was it Song for America? Like the interval pattern is the same. I think it's
I
forget the name of the Egypt or something. I forget the name of the song.
Oh
but,
yeah. I love Symphony X. They're great.
yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Haken. People love Haken. I know people that they're the guard. The guard has been passed from Dream Theater to them, and of course the guys
Yeah.
from Haken were in Portnoy's
Exactly.
backing Dream Theater, tour or tribute or whatever. But
Mhm.
so
Yeah, they're the kings of prog metal now, I think.
Mhm.
But on to number 2, which I don't have a physical copy of because the physical copies don't exist yet. And it's a debut album, my favorite debut album of the year, which is by the band Nospūn, and it's called Opus.
Mhm.
My favorite track on here is the 15-minute epic Within the Realm of Possibility. They're another American band. If you're a fan of Dream Theater, Haken, and Devin Townsend, I feel like it's kind of a combination of that. I really hope they blow up in popularity. I think it's a great album. I think it's a concept album as well. It seems to be about like a person who sees a murder, and then I think they can like time travel or something like that, and they can warn the murder victims before it happens. I'm not a lyrical analysis guy, as you can tell. I'm more of a
right.
music person, but I thought the concept was cool. The performances are great. The production's great. It sounds very polished for a debut album. And
Mhm.
I'm looking forward to buying a physical copy as soon as they have them for sale.
everyone that talks about that it's still like 5 stars, perfect record. That's
Yeah.
probably the biggest. Although there's been a couple other big prog metal debut albums this year, but that was maybe the biggest one. It's
Mhm.
like when it came, like Prog Report, a lot. Like I think some of the people on Notes Reviews channel have just loved it. I think Rhyme Signatures. So
Yeah.
you're not the only one
I
who's
think everyone loves it. I haven't heard
yes,
anyone
yeah.
say anything bad.
I haven't
about
heard it. I obviously
Oh.
have not heard it, but
Yeah,
I can understand why.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like Metropolis Part 2. It's like the next Metropolis Part 2 by Dream Theater. Like that is what it is. Like if anything, any album since then is the next one of that, I'd say it's this.
Mhm. Yeah, for all it's basically from what I've heard from different debuts, it's 4 bands that try to get that Dream Theater, Porcupine Tree, Opeth kind of vibe. Is that one Nospūn? This one called The Anchoret.
Oh yeah.
Another
Yep,
one,
another one. Yeah,
another one. I have no idea how to pronounce it
Ocrist.
correctly.
Ocrist.
Akris.
Yeah, they make
yes,
they use
yes.
V's, and I think the V's are
Mhm.
supposed to be used, so it's like Ocrist.
Yeah, and another one that I was gonna mention during the Haken one, the new Temic album. That is
That's
like
the one I was
really
trying to think of. Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's Eric Gillette,
Wait.
of course,
Yeah.
from Neo Morse fame.
Mhm.
Sounds to me like basically he's aping John Petrucci, but
Yeah, he sounds a lot like Petrucci.
like a
when
little
he
too
plays.
much. But, yeah, but
Also,
yeah, that's like
Diego Tejeda, no?
Yeah,
Project.
from
Diego
Haken.
Tejeda is
Yeah.
in Temic too.
Yeah.
yep. A lot of
Cool.
prog metal.
Yeah, I like all those ones you mentioned. Those are all kind of some of my favorite debut albums of the year as well. But then I got one at number 1 that Alan mentioned already. Avenged Sevenfold.
Yeah.
Life is but
And
a
on
dream.
physical.
Yeah, I got it on vinyl here, and I love it. It's I have loved Avenged Sevenfold for a long time. Like I don't really like their first album because it's just a little bit rough. Like the production's a bit raw. Like there's still a lot of cool like
Very
drumming and
metalcore.
energy. Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
metal. I like their second album though, which is metalcore.
Yes.
Waking the Fallen, I think
Mhm.
is
To me,
where
that's their
they really
breakthrough.
that's their breakthrough. And I don't really like Hail to the King. I feel like they went kind of like imitating Metallica and Iron Maiden and like just kind of more mainstream, but everything else they put out I think is great. And this is their most eclectic album that they've ever done. It's their 8th album, and yeah, the first single, Nobody, it sounded a lot like a continuation from the sound of this stage, but then when they released the next single, We Love You, that was so weird. I was like, what the heck? It was like all over the place.
Yeah. So,
But now that I've listened to the whole album, like it's just got this like strange but very interesting and all over the place quality to it. It's like it's one of those things where it's far from perfect, but I almost kind of love how all over the place and imperfect it is. And to me, it's kind of like the Sleep Token thing where they're doing genre bending and stuff within the songs. But I think that the level of like performance on here, like the guitar playing is just amazing from Sinister Gates. The drumming we already mentioned from Brooks Wackerman is great. I think the thing that people might have the most problems with are the vocals from M Shadows. I think he's a great vocalist, but every now and then there's like a moment where I'm like, oh, he tries things. He's adventurous vocally, and like he has some vocal experiments that I'm like, I don't know if that really worked. That kind of sounded a little weird.
Some of the metaphors, like I feel like he was talking to some call girl or something, like trying to. Yeah, there was a couple songs in there. I'm like, what am I listening to? Is this something you'd be like streaming like cable late one night on like Cinemax? But
oh yeah, I think the album is like in terms of lyrical themes is very like philosophical and touches on like AI and all sorts of things. I haven't really done a deep dive on the lyrics to like really understand it, but I think it's kind of a concept album as well. And I actually like the second half of the album where Kyle, maybe where you get lost interest, because like I like the God suite, although I didn't really like the O part. The Ordinary was kind of the Daft Punk song. I felt like it was a little bit too close, like
too obvious. Well,
yeah, it was like almost too obvious.
I got into that, but I know some people that didn't care for it.
It was like that. This sounds exactly like Daft Punk to me, and it was too weird. But the G song I love. Like that's my favorite song on the album. It kind of sounds like Frank Zappa or like Mr. Bungle. It's like so weird.
That was one of the comparisons. I remember that.
Yeah, and then the Death song is like a Frank Sinatra crooner song, and then it ends with like classical piano solo. It's just like you don't know what you're gonna get, and like there's some moments on the album where you get like their old metalcore sound, and they're like screaming, and then like it's just
that was my reaction too. Is that people were saying this is a massive departure, and they don't have any of the metal. There's barely any guitar on this. It's like no, there's still a lot of their signature troops in this. It's just they took a lot of other things and put it with it as well.
Yeah, there's amazing guitar on this actually, and I feel like that's something that's the most different about this though, is the guitar tones are like different, and every solo on the album sounds different, whereas on their previous albums, like a lot of the guitar solos sounded similar to each other. They would have like some crazy shredding always with the same tone, and then they would do some like harmonized melodic thing. But on this one, it's like every guitar solo just sounds like it's played by a different person with like different gear, and like it almost, some of them don't even sound like guitars. It like sounds like a keyboard playing the guitar solo or something.
Actually, that's an interesting tidbit. I think I remember it was Gates or one of the guitarists that mentioned that many of the synth sounds on the record are actually guitar made.
Yeah. I guess he got some guitar synths or something, like there's some really cool pedals.
Like a Pat Metheny thing.
Yeah, how they're gonna pull it off live, that's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, I watched some videos on YouTube of them playing it live, and it looks like they nail it. I've seen them live, like not after Life Is But a Dream, but like in the past, I think on the stage tour, and they're great live.
I've never seen them. I came close to seeing them with Coheed and Cambria years ago, but we had flash flood warnings and I didn't go. So all right, well, I guess it's my turn to go. So I'm just gonna show, I have honorable mentions too, but I'm just gonna show I have physical copies of all my top 5. So
yeah.
And I can tell you this, none of my top 5s have been mentioned, so I'm not surprised.
Oh,
so
wow.
number 5, which I have talked about all these albums on my channel, I believe, throughout the year, but you know, I watch my channel religiously, is the newest album from and second album in 2 years from the Norwegian band Team Me, who are kind of in the Mew vein in some respects, although this record, I would say it's less like Mew, but it's actually more like the River Empires are falling up at points. It's more acoustic at points, but this track My Great Escape is one of my favorite songs from this year. It's fantastic. The energy is awesome, but beginning to end, this record actually stands out better than a lot of the records I've heard. Like, there are other records that have a few really good songs, but this album just works beginning to end. And the weird thing is they went on like a 6 or 7 year hiatus, and they came out with a new record last year, and then suddenly, oh, we have another record coming this year. And I'm not sure, this may be their worst record, but this actually probably is finished higher than any record in my history. So, but this is called Welcome to the Riverside from Team Me. I don't know if any of you guys have listened to that, you know.
I
Yeah, it's a
haven't heard
complete
it.
surprise for me too.
Yeah, I mean,
That's cool.
they're you know, the fact that I love the band Mew, and Mew has not put out a record since 2017, and we don't, you know, although they just did some shows, but these guys have sort of filled that Mew void in some ways, although not every Mew fan likes them, but yeah, no, I really like this band. They're actually even listed on Prog Archives. I'm surprised. I did a video just a few days ago about whether this band's on Prog Archives or not. They came up on my list, and they were listed in there, surprisingly. But so
I always get them wrong. It's Mew Norwegian or they Danish.
Danish.
well, they're Danish. Yeah, I mean they're Scandinavian, but yeah, I mean Team Me, they're not identical to Mew. It's just they have that sort of dream pop, but with the proggy undertones and like a male female combination of vocals. Their previous records, like even the one from 2022, had more like these gang vocals, kind of like the Polyphonic Spree, or I'm trying to think of another band you compare. I compare them to the Polyphonic Spree, where they have lots of vocal layers, and it kind of gives that big, you know, massive like wall of sound almost kind of thing. And while this album doesn't have quite as much of that, I just think the songs themselves they stand out better, and it's like kind of less is more in some ways. But yeah, no, I mean, I thought they broke up and stuff, but no, it's like, well, no, we have another record coming out, and I know this cover actually resembles another band's cover from like a few years ago, so in like the indie scene. But so that's my number 5. Number 4 is a record that just came out that I've told a few guys about. I mean, Christian knows about this. I just got in the mail the other day, the second Giant Sky album, which is you know, I mean, you guys maybe know the band Soup. It's kind of post rock, but the guy that's behind Soup is really like one guy also. This is his newest project, and this is more space rock. I just did a review of it a few weeks ago, and it's like 68 minutes though. This is like twice as long as the first record that came out a couple of years ago, but it's trippy. It's very cinematic. But I mean, it has, you know, some texture, some guitar. Alan, you know the band Archive? You know them, or maybe you? Yeah, it's kind of like Archive in some ways. I mean, kind of Pure Reason Revolution like at points, but it's just one dude, like really one. He had a bunch of guys playing it, and they're from, I think they're from Norway as well. Giant Sky. But yeah, just, I mean, in fairness, I just listened to it the last couple of weeks, but you know, maybe it's a product of I haven't found as many just like addictive records this year, and so this record came out and I've sort of appreciated it more immediately. But yeah, so this is my number 4. I mean, and I guess the Erland's his name, the guy from Giant Sky. He's going to be focusing primarily on Giant Sky now, and not the band Soup, which people, you know, the band Soup. A lot of people I know that they're a cult band, and if you like post rock, you know, I'd be curious what you'd think, Brennan, if you've ever heard either of them. I don't even know what your take on.
I listened to Giant Sky based on your recommendation, like the one that you're just holding up there. That I haven't heard their first album, but I listened to this one, Giant Sky 2. I like it. It's pretty solid. I haven't heard the band Soup though, and I haven't heard their first album.
And I have never gotten fully into Soup, and I'll confess, even though I haven't maybe tried enough, but I feel like this is a mixture enough of post rock and progressive or space rock, whereas Soup I think sounds more in the sort of traditional post rock, like Explosions in the Sky and like bands like that, which they kind of had that sort of drawn out, you know, slow burny kind of sound, which I really am. I have to have more on my sound. I have to have like trumpets or something else to really get into. But yeah, if you haven't heard the first one, check out the first one, because the first one's like half as long and it like flows so well. I couldn't believe how much I enjoyed that first record when I heard it. So
actually, just a quick question, because I do have, as in my list of when I was investigating on great follow-ups, the band Zoop, but it was a album called Dominion, but they sounded more like classic-y prog rockish.
I
I
Kind
think
of
it's a
like
different. It's
that's
soup with an
Zop.
I
S.
think that's a
it.
slightly
Yeah.
different band.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think that's a different band. I think it was Zop, right? Is that
Zop,
maybe,
yeah, it's
Dominion? Yeah, that was a good album
ZOPP.
too. I like that
Yeah,
one
no, this
too.
band's called. I mean, Notes Reviews reviewed it. The thing is, Notes Reviews just did a video where he talked about 35 albums from 2023 that he said he just had listened to the first one this year, which that doesn't make any sense because he's the one who introduced me to them at the end of 2021. So I don't know, but
He listens to a lot of music,
he
so
does.
maybe
It's
he
hard to
forgot.
keep track of everything. I mean, the guy
He's,
is
he's
the
like
guy's
he's like
awesome.
me. I just went over
It's a
the
machine.
off the
I mean,
deep end this year.
him and Nathan on shelf. These guys, I can't.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, I used to try doing that. I just can't, and I'm trying to listen to other music. So, like, you
Yeah.
know, I'm gonna talk about our friend Annie. She wants me to listen to Dirty Loops more now. So, so my number 3 is the band East of the Wall and their most recent record called A Neutral Second. Which East of the Wall is a band it's like they've been so hit and miss because I love 2 of their records a lot, The Apologist and The Farmer's Almanac, and then the records they've done besides that have been sort of more forgettable. But this record was much better than the last record they put out. I actually don't find any songs I don't like on this, and it's kind of in the sort of Mastodon, you know, sort of post-metal, you know, sludgy kind of, but it's very progressive at times, and the production on this is really good. The drum work's really good. I don't know if any of you guys have listened to this record this year. From
I checked it
East of
out.
the
It's
Wall.
great. I just got into them this year. I hadn't heard any of their earlier stuff before, but when I heard that album, it's so great. I went back, I checked out their full discography.
If you have, like, The Apologist, to
Yeah.
me, when that came out, was my the best progressive metal album I'd heard since Colors from Between the Bear to me. I felt.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, East of the Wall, and I saw them live a few times and kind of got a little personal relationship with the guys and really liked the guys. I saw them at this it's like art gallery where they had wine and apples. It was just 30
that's
people
awesome.
there. It was the weirdest thing. But
Okay.
and then I wrote about one of the records I didn't like on my blog years ago, and then I always felt like I inspired them because they were pissed off at my review. They called the album The Apologist because they're apologizing for making a bad sounding record to me. But no, I really loved this record. I just revisited it a few weeks ago. I was like, yeah, I know why this is a record I wanted to buy on vinyl. And I mean, there's a lot of good songs on it. I don't find any songs I don't like. But you know, it's one of those records where I can listen to it and the whole thing goes, and I'll point out 8 different sections I look forward to. The dynamics, you know, there's a little section that sounds a little like Maudlin of the Well. There's a little section with trumpets at the end. It just, I don't know. I think they hit a home run with this one. So that's my number 3. Number 2, number 1. Now this is, I'm just kind of going back and forth, and I'm going to sort of pull a little bit of an audible, and I'm saying I'm having co-number 1s. The 2 records I've been waiting for all year. The album from Small Leak Sink Ships and Hotel of the Laughing Trees, Faraway Friends. I mean, this is kind of a cop out.
That was really good.
You ever have the case where you literally can't choose between the 2 records? It's like, I love this for this reason, I love this for this reason, and I mean, both these records are bands that I'm admittedly a fanboy of, so I have my own bias. And this one took 7 years, and this one was 8 years, and they were basically broken up. So they both meant a lot for me to come out, but they also kind of hold up. They all just flow really well song to song. I think this album, the Hotel Laughing Tree album, is probably a better record in terms of re-listenability. It's got more songs, more melodies and that kind of thing. But this album kind of has more inspiration, I guess you could say. Low Tide from Small Leaks. One of the songs about the drummer's father and brother who passed away, so it's kind of very melancholy and moving. The drum work is just off the charts on this thing. All these odd rhythms and the piano sections. I don't know. They even do the cover of Girls Just Want to Have Fun, which is a totally different version. And actually, it turns out there's a indie band called Shoo Shoo or I call them Zuzu. One of these songs is a cover. It's called I Love the Valley. Oh, I didn't realize until just yesterday. But so, yeah, I mean,
Juju with an X, right?
What?
Juju with an X.
Yeah, the
I think
XIU, yeah. They were a band that I used to hear on college radio a lot. But yeah, I guess that's a song by them, but I don't know if you can see it right there. It's the 8th track. The song doesn't really resemble the original that much. So, but No. So yeah, I mean, I've had other years like this. I've looked at my history, what years, like I can't decide which, like in 2009, when you had Dredge, The Deer Hunter, and Mew, I couldn't pick one. Those three albums were just, they're about all equal. And I just is like, no, it's Kevin Gilbert. Forget it. I don't want to think about this. So, but yeah, I mean, I love both these records, and they'll probably be records I listen to for a long time. So yeah, that's about it, you know. And so if you guys want to do the honorable mention stuff now, and then talk about 2024. Oh, and we got Annie. Why don't we go over Annie's thing? I can read her thing. So she couldn't participate. Our friend Annie, I've known her for a long time, originally from Sao Paulo, Brazil, but she lives in Denmark now, and big prog fan, and you know, indie fan, and the Deer Hunter, well, not necessarily Deer Hunter, but she loves Gavin Castleton. But one of the bands she's obsessed with is Dirty Loops. But this is what she wrote to me. She says, "I just saw your message, and it might be too late. I don't have a list, but it's okay." She listed 3 albums. Okay, so album of the year definitely is the Flower Kings' "Look at You Now."
Mm-hmm.
I
She's a
absolutely
big Flower Kings fan.
Yes, she is. Well, and she lives near Sweden, so she's got to see them live probably in the last whatever decade she's been living there.
They
Nearby.
did recently. They did a series of not anniversary shows, but like really big bombastic shows over all of Sweden. And she pretty much made a road trip.
Oh yeah.
No, she's been doing that. You know, she'll do these road trips, and it's just her. Like her husband, I guess, is not. I can relate to that because my wife doesn't care for much of my music either. So she's kind of I can totally relate to her, like having to take those trips. But yeah, she says, absolutely love the album. You know, I love the Flower Kids for many years, but this one has even more special place in my heart. And I was able to attend the album release weekend event in Uppsala, Sweden. It was a dream come true for any Flower Kids fan. Okay, so the second one is not very proggy, but more jazzy. This artist named Mikael Mani, like Mikael Åkerfeldt from Opeth. Mikael Mani, Innermost. He's an Icelandic guitar player. And he just released this new album now in November, and it's absolutely beautiful. I've been listening to it a lot these days at work. It's very chill, but it has very beautiful moments and sounds. Henrik from Dirty Loops is playing bass on it as well. So
I can see
I
why.
have to check that out. It sounds like something I'd enjoy. And then number 3, third, and the last time is obviously Peter Gabriel, I/O, which I haven't heard yet is full, but album since the songs release every full moon, blah, blah, blah. So
She's been doing the follow-up of listening every full moon and every new moon.
Yep.
Mixes.
So, you know, and I'll say this, if we can do more of these down the road, we were wanted to see if she could be on with us. Maybe she can be involved the next time we do this, or one of the next time. So that being said, do you want to do any honorable mentions?
I do. I do have some. For example, in the top 10 that I mentioned, I was really surprised with the new Guess Who album. I was like shocked. I was expecting like really classic rock vibes, and they did a power pop Jellyfish kind of a thing. Yep. And it's like really catchy songs, really
totally
like really off the wall moments, and it's a really really highly recommended. Another one, I'm gonna group this by one guy that's named Sean Timms, who's a keyboardist in various bands in Australia, but he did 3 amazing releases this year with their bands. It would be Southern Empire, Another World, which if you're really into really prog metal-ish kind of vibes, definitely check them out. Unitopia, 7 Chambers, which is a lot more lighter, a lot more Genesis oriented, and one called Dominic that he made with Guy Manning. I'm trying to remember the name of the album. I do have it around here, but I'll remember it in a moment. A lot of debuts this year, as we mentioned, the whole Akravas, Nospūn, Ankret, Temek. There's also Oblivion Protocol, which is another one that the latest Threshold album that came out last year, it was kind of a hit and miss, really good tracks, but not so catchy tracks. And they have a really good album that they released pre-pandemic called Legends of the Shires. And the keyboardist, Richard West, wanted to do a sequel, but the band didn't. So fuck it, he made his own band, Oblivion Protocol. And it's a really, really amazing, great debut album.
Or is it Particle? I don't know.
Oblivion Protocol.
Is it Protocol? Okay, so the Oblivion Particle sounds familiar, but P-A-R-T versus Protocol.
Yep, that one's another great mention.
That's a different group or a song or an album or something, because I'm thinking most of like a Spock's Beard. I'm thinking of Spock's.
You're thinking of a Spock's Beard.
I was thinking of Spock's Beard. Okay.
Another one of the great debuts that you do guys have to listen at some point is Empire State Bastard. That
Oh,
album
Bernard,
is
Bernard's.
killer.
I'm on the fence on that. I was expecting, given that I'm a Biffy Clyro fan and also a Bernard fan, I was expecting something different, but I'm not sure.
I listened to one of the first song, and I know this is gonna be such a departure, and so I never listened to it as much as I love Bernard. I love Ocean Size, and I'm a Biffy Clyro fan. I'm with you, Alan.
It's a pretty
And this one
heavy
they went on
album.
full-fledged
Yeah,
thrashy,
yeah, it's
funky
heavy.
It is
kind of a
thrashy.
vibe.
Dave Lombardo on drums, right?
From
Yeah.
Slayer. Yeah,
That-
that's
that's
part of
another-
why. Yeah.
That's another great debut album. The Dave Lombardo's Rites of Percussion. Alan, you might love this as a drummer. It's got amazing vibes, and every single instrument is drums. There's like
I will
no
check it out.
guitars, no keyboard. It's just pure drums.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Does he
Thanks.
have like pitch drums that he uses?
Yeah, he
to
uses
have, like,
pitch drums and
melody
all those
har-
things. I think
Oh,
he
wow,
may
I didn't
cheat a
hear
bit
that.
with some triggers and some synthy bits,
Okay.
but it's really,
Right.
really
That
interesting
reminds
album.
me of the guy Scotty Horry, who was in the local Minnesota band that he did this drum thing. I forget his name, but he's gone around the world doing it. Anyway.
All right. Well, that's in my
Okay.
biggest list of great debuts.
Okay.
Those are. I got this short list that has artist comebacks, which of course Avenged Sevenfold and Peter Gabriel are the bigs, but I did want to mention these ones. Trevor Rabin's Rio is a really,
Oh, yeah,
really
the
great
Trevor
comeback,
Rabin,
especially
yep.
production-wise. Closure in Moscow. That one's a really surprising too. It was really unexpected because they kind of hyped it up like really at the beginning of the year, and then it came out late in the year, and it's really solid album. I need a little bit more listens to
Mhm.
envelop and understand the whole thing. And another band called Seven Impale that I revisited revisited earlier this week, called the album's called Summit. It's really, really amazing thing.
That was
I feel
hyped up for, I think it was the summer, and I did listen to some of that.
Yeah.
That was
Yep.
good. Yeah.
And let's see, from other that I have randomly, I'm just gonna mention three of them. Let's see, District 97's latest album's really
Yeah.
solid.
folks.
There's let's see,
trying to
In
think of the
Flames album
debut
actually
albums I've
surprised
seen.
me, and I saw them live. They came live
In
here in
Flames.
Costa Rica
Okay. Melodic death
recently.
metal. Okay.
Let's see, Hirsch Effect is another one that's like really, really great German band that's
There's some
all over the
people-
wall.
Yeah, I know
Really,
some people that know them. on the
really,
Dream Theater forums.
it kind of sounds like East of the Wall, the band that you mentioned
Okay.
earlier, but they're a bit more heavy on the side. But
Sure.
there's a lot, and that I mentioned to Brendan on the tech death part, the Zenith Passage with their album
Oh,
Delusion.
yeah. Great.
Really,
One
really
of the
good.
best
I
tech
bet
death
Rhyme
of the year, I
Signature
think.
knows them. I bet.
Yeah.
hmm
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's great.
that's pretty much my honorable mentions.
I mean, I have a few. I mean, unless Alan, Brennan, go ahead. I mean, I don't really like doing this in any type of order.
I
But,
can I'll do like a few. I'm just gonna like shout them out. I won't describe them too much, but my honorable mentions would be Periphery 5, Gent is not a genre.
right.
The Ocean Holocene,
hmm
You talked about that on your channel.
Nail
Yep.
Bliviscaris Exul, and I saw them live this year, and they're amazing live. Those three bands I knew before, and I love their whole catalogs. But then a few bands that I discovered this year that also made great stuff. Hypnos and their album Sheol, Omnirod and their album The Immensal Rise, Bear Ghost and their album
Yes.
Jiminy. That one's pretty cool. The vocals sound like the Deer Hunter, but the music is like all over the place. There's like rockabilly and like it's kind of like that, got that Mr. Bungle spirit where they just, and like the Avenged Sevenfold and Sleep Token where they're just genre bending.
They had
and
two
then-
really songs I really liked on that record. I do
Yeah.
have some reservations, unfortunately, about them. Mostly, but what's happened in their history, unfortunately.
Oh.
But I shouldn't be like artists, that kind of stuff. But
I don't know this.
yeah.
I don't know this.
well, maybe I
story.
should have brought. I mean, you just don't think about it. I'm just saying.
Okay.
But
'Cause I love the music.
Because like a few
Uh,
people absolutely went crazy for them. I know the Deer Hunter fans are totally like they're like Bear Ghost, the greatest thing, for a few years now. The Deer Hunter
Yeah, they're
love them.
Bear
So,
Ghost's music
yes.
is really fun. And then lastly, I'll shout out OK Goodnight, The Fox and the Bird, which was
Okay.
mentioned earlier. And thanks everyone for mentioning so many albums. I think there's a lot here that I haven't heard yet that I have to go check out.
There's some on Nathan on Shuffle's list that I need to check out still too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I have two physical. Actually, I have three. One of them's my wife's. There's one other one I didn't have, but one of them is Mayor Hawthorne's new album, Hawthorne Rides Again, which he's a neo soul artist. I don't know if you guys ever listened to any of his stuff. Really good production, but it's not his
So-
best record. But what?
Sorry for the interruption. We have 20 minutes left.
Oh yeah, we got. Okay, so you want to do one more session? We do one more session.
Sure.
Or
Right.
yeah, all right. So all right, thank you for watching. We'll see you on the last part 3 coming up soon.
Right. Brennan, first.
All right, so you want to go into what's coming out in 2024 because we're at a bit of a time crunch, Brennan.
Sure, yeah. I could give my so my most anticipated albums of 2024. Well, I feel like there's 3 coming that don't have release dates yet that I'm really anticipating. And those would be Thrice and their album Horizons West. This is more of like a post-hardcore
No, I know them.
band, but
Yep.
they've kind of changed their sound a lot and gone more like alternative rock and like kind of artsy indie rock. It's still kind of hard rock, still has those like moments where they every now and then will go into screaming, but they've really abandoned that. They're kind of all over the place in terms of genre, but a really great band. The Deer Hunter, Sunya. I don't know the release date for that, but I hope it comes out in 2024.
I tried to
Anyway.
ask Casey about that yesterday on Instagram Live.
Oh.
The thing froze up, unfortunately. He said
Yeah.
early. He said that the show I saw back in October, he said it's supposed to come out early in 2024, but we'll see.
Hopefully. And then I think Pain of Salvation's been working on something. I saw a tentative
Yeah.
title called The Deep End, so hopefully that
Deep
comes
End.
out.
For a
So
couple
those are the
years.
3. I don't know if they have dates, but then the ones with dates, I'll give a couple of those. My top 2 most anticipated would be Caligula's Horse and their album Charcoal Grace coming out January 26th. That's progressive metal. They're from Australia, great band. I'm going to see them live this year because they're coming over to Canada, so that'll be great to see. They're going to play with Earthside here, so I've got
Makes
tickets.
sense.
I just bought tickets, so pumped to see that. And then Isan, progressive black metal. He's releasing a self-titled album. He was the front man of Emperor. He does great progressive black metal stuff. I prefer his solo work over the Emperor stuff, but
I love the after record, with the saxophone and everything.
oh yeah.
And the
Yes,
cool
yes.
thing about that Papa Isan record is that he's doing 2 versions of it. He's doing it
Oh really?
very black metal
Ooh.
oriented and the other one orchestrated.
Okay.
Oh,
Orchestral
okay.
black metal, of course, because there's
All
orchestral black
right.
metal.
Well, I'm gonna listen to both of those and probably like both. I didn't really like black metal much until like I kind of got into it with like Isan and another band Xanthocroid are the ones that
Oh
got me
yeah.
into black metal.
That
I don't
name is just always thrown me off, but I know that I've not seen
I
that
don't
name.
really like the like original like OG Norwegian black metal sound, like the whole like raw production. It's not for me, but like the more progressive and cinematic black metal, I've been getting into more.
Like Agalock,
Oh yeah, I have to check them out. I
So
haven't
okay.
listened to them much.
That's
That's everything for me.
That's
for
everything.
2020.
Okay. I mean, Christian and I have been keeping these calendars, so we know what are you looking forward to, Alan? Do you know?
Okay, so I have on my list The Smile album,
Oh,
Johnny
right.
Greenwood and Tom York, remix of Band on the Run of Paul McCartney.
Oh, McCartney. Okay.
The
Okay,
de-orchestrated version.
Yes, that could be
Yeah.
interesting.
Looking forward to that. The new Pineapple Thief
Mhm.
All right.
leads to this. A post-punk band that I discovered a couple of years ago. Then they're actually coming to town next year. Idols. I don't know if you have heard
That
of.
name's familiar. I just can't like IDLES. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not Idlewild, but Idols. Yeah, that name's familiar. But okay.
Idols. Everything. You know this band.
Yes. Yes.
The new Nick Cave album. New Nick Cave and the Bad
Just
Seeds.
announced. Yep.
Looking forward to that. Dredge. Whenever that happens.
Yeah.
Whenever that happens.
Whenever
oh,
we get the
man.
damn thing, it could be when I'm 80 years old.
Yeah.
But yes.
We're gonna do a video on just Dredge.
Yes.
And anticipating on what they're gonna do.
Yeah,
I just,
man.
the thing about Dredge is they're not talked about among progressive rock circles. They used to be, but they haven't been. And it's like all these people on YouTube that love prog never mention them. And if they come out with a new record, they actually may finally get into that sort of discussion again, because, you know, we know that Dredge what used to be a really big name. So
Yeah, it just
I've never heard them, to be honest. I
oh,
gotta check it out.
they toured with the Deer Hunter. The Deer Hunter opened for them a number of years ago.
cool.
If you've never heard them, I mean, I don't guarantee you'd like, but they're like Pink Floyd meets Tool. I mean, that's a vague way to put it, but
Sounds like I would like it.
I think you would like them. You might like their first record most. That's their heaviest, although it's more kind of raw, but I don't know. But it'd be a massive deal, the point that we get a new Dredge. It's like Tool in that sense. It's been since 2011 since we've had a new Dredge album.
And last year they put out a box set which included like
Right there, right back there.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
The vault.
besides and everything. But everyone, or at least I'm talking on behalf of all the fans out there, we're expecting news on the new album, and everything that they were posting was about this stupid box set. But anyways,
Here's my oops, I'm gonna have an accident here, but here's my Dredge pillow. That's all you need
the
to know.
pillow.
Yeah, the
Yes, LCL of their second record. So
Cool.
That's pretty cool merch.
all right, Christian, do you have anything else, Alan?
Just two more mentions. Obviously, the new Dream Theater with
Right.
That
my
was
Purloin.
Oh yeah, of
And-
course. I
Hope it comes
can't
in
believe I forgot to
2025.
say that.
I hope it comes in 2024, but I wouldn't mind if they do like 2025 early release.
If-
I mean,
Yeah.
like kind of a touring kind of thing.
Mhm.
Who knows?
And the Warning
Yes,
new
yes.
album
I still
Yes.
haven't listened to them, but
You
I've
gotta
heard.
listen to
I
them.
should-
You gotta listen to them. They're
from my
awesome.
humble abode.
And the songs live, the new songs live have been awesome. So I will never avoid hearing about it because my coworker is an obsessed fanboy. He's on the Patreon every single day. This about this gossip with the warning, that gossip with the warning. So yes, but I'm looking forward to the new record whenever it does come out, hopefully next year.
Yeah, I gotta check them out.
That's about it.
Okay, so Christian, you want me to go? Actually, I have a pretty short list of like this confirmed.
Let me go with that.
Okay.
With mine, since it's more kind of a prog rock oriented besides Dream Theater, so I'm just gonna mention a couple of very heavy prog metal releases. One that I'm really excited about is the new Persephone album.
Yes, that's on my
Which
list.
is gonna be.
I love them.
those
It's
guys
just an
opened
EP
for
though,
Opus
right?
Here in Costa Rica,
No, it's a
and
big
they
full
were
length. Is it?
amazing. Discovered them in that moment, and I've been big.
Oh,
of
it
a
is an
fan
EP.
of them
You're right. It's
since.
an EP. Yep.
Mhm. Yeah, but I think it's gonna be an EP, but it's gonna be interesting. Let's
It's
see.
like the
Yeah.
first
See
part
who
of a
it-
couple. They'll have more than one part of it. So
Yeah,
you
I
know.
love that band. So good.
Another one that does have a release date right now, and it's in late February. Sleepy Time Gorilla Museum. The singles have been killer too.
I know. I should love them, and I saw them with Bubble Math and everything. Have you ever heard Sleepy Time Gorilla Museum, Brennan? Maybe not.
I only just listened to the single from the new album like a couple days ago because I've heard the name. I'd never listened to them, but I listened to the first single from their 2024 album. It was pretty eclectic. I think I might like
They have
it.
like a drummer who plays on a trash can and a violinist and all. Yeah. I mean, I know some of you and a few of my other friends think I'm this obsessed SGM fan, and I've never got into it. I respect them, but I know it's a big deal because they broke up and they have this cult fan base. So
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe I'll have to give the new album a go and my mind will change. But so
yeah, and the last one in the prog metal that I'm really interested and keen to listen to is the latest Bruce Dickinson one. Believe it or not.
okay.
Because
Oh, yeah.
previous albums have been like really more exploratory than Maiden albums, and this latest one, for example, the latest single that he has is basically a doom song.
Mhm.
So
Interesting.
it's like
I listened to the
really
single.
gonna do
It's
mellow.
pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Mhm. All right.
I can. It's interesting to hear him over like modern metal sounding guitars because I'm used to hearing him over those like kind of 80s sounding Maiden guitars, but this is like kind of like down tuned like 7-string heavy metal. I don't know if it was 7-string. but
Slower. It's
it's-
like me,
Mhm.
like Dickinson joined Sabbath, or Dickinson joined like Earth, or Boris, one of
The
those sort of
Sword,
slow
kind of
burn
like
metal
really
bands. Yes.
down tune kind of thing.
Yes. Yes.
It's interesting.
So
All right, I'm gonna go faster with the prog rock one because it's a tad longer, but I'm gonna be short. Latest Big Train, really excited for that one. Latest Dirt Pro Rubbins, that one too.
yes, of course.
The Aristocrats'
Firebird.
latest album, that too.
Aristocrat.
Steve Hackett's gonna be really amazing. Let's see what other one that I'm really There's Fido, latest album.
Yep, it's
Hopefully
supposed to
it
come out
comes
in
out at some
November.
point.
Yes, yep,
Imogen
Fido.
Heap. Frost might be the second biggest one that I'm really excited for. Life in the Wires. I really hope they pull up and Gem releases something. But the biggest one that I'm mostly excited with is Kairos, the latest Kairos
Of
record.
course.
The latest songs that they've been releasing in 2023 have been the songs of the year for me. Been listening to them nonstop over and over again, and I'm basically a close personal friend with the band, and I'm loving every minute. And well, with this full album, I really hope it's gonna be the 2024 album of the year.
I wouldn't be surprised. It's going to be, but you're not the only one going to buzz about it. I know that it's coming out. What, February? I think.
Yep, it's on. Let's check the list. February 2nd.
Early in the year. Okay.
Exactly.
Well, let's see. If I went over stuff that you haven't been going over, I mean, Durpa Robbins' Firebird's a big deal, of course, to me. And we have Chromeo, the electronic band. My wife, Adult Contemporary, is coming out. Everything, of course. Lenny Kravitz. In Vain, the sort of progressive black and death metal band. They're coming out their album Solemn in April. I'm looking forward to that. I'm surprised no one mentioned at this point Moron Police, Pachinko.
Oh yeah, Moron Police, Pachinko.
So,
yeah.
That's a big deal. Brian Scary, my Brian Scary fandom that came out last year. His 2 albums. One's called The House That Time Forgot. One album that I've already heard. It's supposed to come out in the next couple of months. It's not only entirely instrumental, but mostly on the pneumatic transit. They have an album called Forbidden Trinkets. It's like jazz fusion, kind of Mahavishnu Orchestra, Mars Volta influenced jazz fusion. But they have vocals on this one. But I actually was surprised how much I liked it. So Joey Eppard, I'm wearing the shirt today, Christian. If he comes out from the band 3, you know, the you used to know. You love Coheed and Cambria, Brendan. If you've never heard 3, you might.
Yeah, Joey Eppard's definitely.
I haven't heard it, but I'll
you'd have to listen to.
The end is begun. You can go over.
3 is awesome. I like them more than Coheed, as much as I like Coheed. But it's been a long time since we've got anything from Joey Eppard. I guess the Patreon has been releasing stuff, so. Falling Up presents the Chilling Alpine Adventure. I talked about them earlier. Jesse Ribordi's project. If we ever get to River Empires, it'd be a bigger deal with Casey Crescendo, the Deer Hunter, and Jesse Ribordi working together. But I'll be happy just to get a Falling Up album. Klimt 1918's Amor, which has been a long time in the making. And I mean, that's the gist of it. There's a lot of like Ben Sinister, who's released 6 songs in the last 6 months, probably going to put out an album next year, and there's a lot of stuff that hasn't been announced. I'm sure will be coming, but that's the gist of what I'm looking forward to. I don't know if you guys would want to do like a preview video in a few months just to talk about, we know more about some of this stuff if we have time.
Sure.
But anyway, I think
I do have to mention one thing before we leave, because Annie is gonna mention this, the latest Dirty Loops album.
Of course, Dirty Loops, we should remember. Yes. Well, it's like I downloaded a couple of the Dirty Loops albums and I'm ready to listen to them, but I've been so cramming for this list and stuff. And between that and the Albums of the Year series, I've been waiting to, and the Kevin Gilbert stuff I finally listened to. You know, so
Beardfish is also recording right now.
Well, yeah, I actually have a list. I mean, there's other stuff that where's the calendars that we've been keeping. There's stuff just on here that Bent Knee, although I didn't like their last couple of records that much. Capital Cities, Crimson Glory just announced today they're coming back. A Formal Horse. IQ, people are gonna go crazy for IQ. Pepe Deluxe, as my Puri's Revolution, Ellen.
Yeah.
Yes. Sabotage is Curtain Call. If we get the last Sabotage album, assuming John Oliva isn't dead first.
That's the thing. Every time they announce any new news on the new Sabotage record, he gets a health issue.
I know.
You're forgetting one band, Reign of Kindle.
I was about to say the Reign of Kindle. If we get that, you know, I go to those meetings every couple months, you know, in the Patreon. That will be a huge deal if it comes out. Wither and Bloom, maybe. Well, we're gonna get a Toehider album. We had all these EPs. You know, Brennan knows about that.
I hope so. I've been listening to the EPs and they're great. I like hearing LPs more, so I kind of wish that he did an LP, but all the EPs are great.
Well, I mean, what
an amazing singer. Oh my God. And just like how he's such a multi-instrumentalist and he can play everything so well himself.
Did you see what just got announced too? He's doing a few shows in Australia with the Deer Hunter Enclosure in Moscow.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how he's gonna pull. He's got to have a backing band.
He has a band. Yeah,
so
I think he brings.
in the chat yesterday on Instagram, I tried to ask you, so is there a chance that like Casey or any of the band members are going to join Toehider or vice versa for the Deer Hunter set? I mean, we priced that out, Christian. Remember, it was like $1,400 to fly down under to see him. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
You know
but-
who else we're missing? David Gilmour. He's supposed
Oh,
to.
yeah.
Oh,
oh,
really?
is he supposed to put
picture-
out another album?
That
Okay.
was,
Yeah.
that was mythical.
I'll
I
have to check
really
that
hope
out.
it does because that means he tours, and that's one of the missing Pink Floyd members I gotta see live.
I've never
Same
seen
here.
him live either, so
Never
I'm with you on that.
I'm sure it's very expensive to see live.
Yeah.
On the
Yeah,
I've got
metal
a budget for
side,
that.
there's a couple we didn't mention that are
Mhm.
some big names. Like if you like power metal, Dragon Force is coming out with Warp Speed Warriors, which should be fun. Like they're always pretty hilarious, just crazy guitar wankery. And then Judas Priest,
Oh, yeah.
heavy metal
Okay.
legends, are releasing Invincible Shield, and the singles have been pretty good. So I think
After getting in the
should be
Rock
good.
Hall, you know.
Yeah.
I guess Lionel Richie's now a fan because he was at the same ceremony. It's like Lionel Richie show. I like the fact that Dolly Parton did a rock album this year.
Oh yeah.
Another band that recently reunited, and I really hope they do. They're doing live shows, but they hope they do a new album, Textures,
Oh yes,
from
yes,
Netherlands.
yes. If that happens, because I actually really liked the last album, Phenotype, I think it was,
Mhm,
and I know people didn't like it as much. I felt like it was a comeback. So
mhm.
yeah, I mean, with metal, it's so for me, it's like there's bands I've liked historically, I'm gonna be loyal to, but then a lot of the new stuff I just struggle with. I don't know why. But you know, even between the Buried and me, as much as people love Colors too, I really haven't been able to get into any of their albums the last decade. But you know, you had Native Construct, who I really loved, and then of course that was a one-off. That was a one-time deal. You know, it's just, if we get a Texture Zone, we get In Vain, we get Persephone, I'm still going to be paying attention to some of that stuff.
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, there's stuff that came out this year that I never listened to, like Panopticon, and that
Oh yeah, I checked it out. It's
the
pretty
the
cool.
metal scene
It's-
like totally like we're
Yeah.
into. Well, I don't know if
Mhm.
you know a friend of mine's channel, Brennan, is that drummer guy, or now he's known as his name is Josh, but Heavy Debriefings. And he
Mhm.
he does a top 100 every year, and he gets promos, so he listens to it's like, and he doesn't even hear every metal album either. It's insane, but if you have the time, I guess more power to you. So
Mhm.
but yeah, we should follow up with like a preview or like the best albums of the year so far, and we can sort of preview the rest of the year because there's so much
Oh.
music that's expected this year. I mean, the only thing I would just ask you guys is, what did you guys think of 2023 as a whole? Like at this point, how do you look at it?
Mm,
I
I
thought it
think
was great.
I'm
'Cause
I'm kind of so on it.
I feel like the more albums that you listen to, the more excellent stuff you'll find. And since I listened to the most albums this year that I ever have in my life, like I went over 400, which I've never done before, I found the most excellent stuff that I ever did. Like I have a list of like 150 that I think are just like excellent albums. And I
digging
don't
for
think
gold.
for any other year, I don't think I have that many that I would like give
But
that
how many of
excellent
those
rating.
are you going to be listening to year after year, like years
Yeah, maybe
you
the
know?
top 50 will like
Yeah.
stay with me. It's hard, it'll be hard to like keep listening to all of those, you know?
Mhm.
Mhm.
No, I know. That's kind of why I'm doing these like you did your albums of the year in the 70s. I'm like having
Yeah.
to listen to like catch up to a lot of albums. Like I'm gonna have to do like a second. In fact, if you wanted to, we could try doing like a group thing for some of those years. I don't know if you guys would ever want to do that.
I'm up for it.
It'd be
I'd be
fun,
up
you
for
know.
let's do the 80s because like that's what I was thinking of doing next on my channel because I've done the 70s, but
We could
I
do
don't
like
have I don't know
anniversary
as
years.
much. I don't know as much from the 80s to be honest. Like there's some years where I like
And you love
struggle
prog
to
metal, so
find
there's a
10 that
lot
are
of
great.
prog metal that's in the 80s that's when it started.
Yeah.
I mean, it really came into the 90s with Dream Theater, but you know, you have your Fates Warning and your Queensryches, of course, in the 80s. But
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
you know, that's been part of it is that, you know, I felt like I'll probably
I'll
get into
have
more
to
albums
jump
this
off
year.
since.
So all right. Well, this has been a lot of fun, you guys. We'll have to do this again, you know, and maybe Annie can join us and who knows,
Oh,
maybe someone
definitely.
else. But it's been a blast. But thank you for watching, everyone. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and please check out Brennan's channel and we'll link Christian's, you know, Images and Words Discord on there and everything. And but well, thank you for watching again, and we'll see you next time.
Merry
Thanks
Christmas.
for having
Cheers.
us.
Bye.
Feliz Navidad.
Bye,
Bye.
Feliz
everybody.
Navidad.